This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, November 17th, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, Riley Smith will be joined by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for the closing market discussion. But first, I bring you comments from Senator Chuck Grassley's weekly Ag press conference call, in which he speaks with farm broadcasters and reporters.
It's very good that China will begin purchasing soybeans again. Now, while the administration has made that step forward, the administration and Congress can take steps now to provide farmers with diverse and stable domestic markets. Before I get into that, I want to say that I appreciate the president opening up markets for American soybeans, and particularly Iowa, the number two producer of soybeans after Illinois. And it has affected the market because the market's up about $1. But I want to inform everybody that advises the president in the White House or from the Secretary of Agriculture that farmers are still losing at least $1.50 on every bushel of corn. So as important as it is, there still needs to be vast improvement in the price of soybeans. Yesterday, stakeholders met at the White House to discuss the needs for a permanent year-round E15 nationwide. Now, having this discussed at the White House and showing an interest in something that has been in effect by a presidential waiver, first starting with Trump's first term through Biden's 4 years, and now Trump doing it again, it should be a no-brainer that we need to take action through legislation on E15 nationwide. Now, this meeting that took place yesterday is a very important step forward. I don't have a full report on that meeting yet, but I'm glad the administration is finally taking this issue very seriously. It'll have a big impact on what farmers get for corn. Remember that E15 then could provide about $13 billion domestic market for corn and would bring savings to the federal treasury because there'd be less federal taxpayer support for farmers' low corn prices. Then turning to the renewable fuel standard, this remains the most efficient way to support soybean farmers. And also it affects national energy security. And it is a big economic benefit to rural communities through the RFS market. The administration needs to finalize the proposed 2026 and 2027 renewable volume obligation levels, creating opportunities for high soybean oil demand. Supporting half RINs would build on the American First agenda by supporting domestic producers, not foreign imports. Reallocating any exempted gallons for small refineries is also very critical. So, getting back to President Trump and his sidekick and EPA Administrator Zeldin, I urge them to keep the family farmers and the biofuels producers in mind as they work to finalize the renewable fuel standard rules and do it for sure before December 31st.
That was Senator Chuck Grassley in his weekly Ag press conference call. It's time now for the closing markets. Here's Riley Smith with more.
Thanks, Mark. It's time now to take a look at the closing markets with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Sam, we had a big WASDE report on Friday. Had some time to digest that in the marketplace. How are the grains trading today?
Well, we had a very wild day in the grain markets today, Riley. Had overnight actually gapped lower on the soybean chart, so it looked like more selling was going to continue from that report that you mentioned on Friday. However, early in the morning, found some strength and recovered, and then actually had a lot of strength throughout the day, recovered all of the losses that were incurred on Friday, ended up closing with a new high for the move. So today's action, very strong technically speaking in the soybean markets as an outside day higher, meaning trade below the previous day's low and then close above the previous day's high. So to see that in the market today was definitely very supportive for the soybeans. Corn also followed suit. Didn't erase all of Friday's losses, but definitely had a good day. Wasn't quite able to close above that 200-day moving average on the December contract. Came about a half a cent short of doing so there. So that was something that technical traders were certainly paying attention to. But nonetheless, a very strong day in the markets as we saw soybeans closing up over 30 cents higher on the day. So very strong signals there on the grain side of things today.
And then, of course, we have some more news that Trump is going to try to get some more purchases, especially of soybeans from China. Of course, we're kind of in a state right now, though, of sell the rumor, trade the fact, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Did see some sales come through today, though, or at least believed to be sales from our commercial counterparts at JSA. They announced that about 6 cargoes were shipped off the PNW and an additional one off the Gulf. So sounds like some of these soybean purchases are coming to fruition here, which is certainly good to see as far as demand is concerned. On the flip side of that, though, we did have a correction to some export flash sales that were announced on Friday at 11 o'clock. Obviously, we got all those flash sale announcements right at 11 o'clock when we got the USDA report. But today we did get a correction on that. One of the sales to China was lowered by 100,000 metric tons. So instead of 223,000 metric tons, I believe it was, it ended up only being 123,000 metric tons. So, kind of vice versa of what we're hearing today and seeing. You would think that'd be a negative to the markets. However, we did react very strong today throughout the session, just continued to find strength as the day went along.
Then over in the livestock market, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Had a strong day in the cattle and hogs, feeders and fats both up, very strong. Fats up about $2 or more, and feeders were up over $4. Some contracts even up as high as $5.50. So very strong price action there. Obviously, market was thought to be in maybe a little bit of an oversold territory. So some technical buying coming in to support that. Also, found some support down at the 200-day moving average on that chart. And then as far as hogs were concerned, very quiet day in the hog trade. Just finished right around unchanged there, depending on what contract you were looking at, slightly higher or slightly lower. So pretty quiet day in the hogs.
All right, Sam, lots of great information today. For anyone who wants to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Best way would be to visit our website at agmarket.net, or you could give us a phone call in normal 1-800-779-1515.
Thanks again for your time as always, Sam, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks. Talk to you later.
Thank you to Riley Smith and Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for the closing market discussion. Let's take a look at the closing numbers, which you can find anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
December corn closes up 4.5 cents at $4.34 3/4. January soybeans up 32 3/4 at $11.57 1/4. December soybean meal up 8.30 at $3.30.80. December soybean oil up 99 cents at $51.14. Chicago wheat up 17 cents at $5.44 1/4. Minneapolis wheat up 9 cents at $5.74. Kansas City hard red wheat up 13.5 at $5.28 3/4. December oats up 2 1/4 at $3.08 1/2. On the Merc, December live cattle up 2.13 at $221.28. January feeder cattle up 5.73 at $326.28. December lean hogs up 8 cents at $78.58. December pork cutout unchanged at $94.18, and Class 3 milk up 23 cents at $16.91.
That does it for the closing market coverage today and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website, including all of our daily ag news stories, as well as all of our podcasts, which you can find under the podcast tab. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith and Dustin Huffman, you've been watching Ag Matters PM.